Yeah, nu ko umagilis gayutun la tsakoluten. My traditional name is Umagilis and my English name is June Johnson, and I'm from the Cape Mudge First Nations. Gaila Kesla. It's really important for me, and I started like over 10 years ago because our own community was lacking the culture. I just felt it was needed to be done, and because I learned from my mother around, I think it was 1956. I think we got the potlatch ban was over in 55, and my mom got a bunch of us young girls in the village to go over to Johnson Naknakins, who used to play a reel-to-reel potlatch music through the village every Saturday morning. So my mom said, no, you girls are going to come. We're going to teach you. I'm going to teach you to dance. So we would go there after school a couple days a week. And missing it for so many years after my mom passed away in 73, it was like, we don't have anything. Like we were missing that part. And I always really liked the culture. I really always wish I was in that era when they had the potlatches, because to me it was such an exciting time for our people to celebrate with marriage and births and stuff like that. And it was, to me, I thought we were really missing it. So I think it was 2010? Yeah, that our Treaty Society had put a thing out for someone to do culture with the youth. So I put my name in, and we took the youth, urban youth, the ones from the city, which they didn't get. They didn't get the culture. So we took them out to Jackson Bay, Teka, our traditional territory, where our original village began. So took them out for a week, and I took sticks, glue to make glue book, and I took all my regalia out there for them to learn to dance, and I took out a couple singers, and I decided that they would need to learn the culture. And we also I took them out to do cedar stripping, so they would learn how to cedar strip and make something. And it was just, to me, culture was really important for our children at that time to learn. Because, when you got the video games and everything, I thought, no, we need to start pushing the culture. Yeah. And I took the first group out, it was a week, and took another. I was out there for a month where different groups came from our village, like the Liquidot, Cape Mudge and Campbell River, Quika. We all had the youth that went to it. And then the last trip that we had was with the adults. And some of them were elders that didn't get to ever do the culture because of residential school or other things that happened that they never got to learn. So it was really nice, and they really appreciated to learn some dancing and to learn, how to do fish, and just to learn the culture was an amazing time. And the language, because language to me is really, really important to me. I've been doing language. I started teaching, I can't remember if it was 2000. I went back to school, to UVic, because we had to go to UVic to learn to do our language at school. So anyways, I went there. And I really found that the language is really important in their culture. How would you know the songs? How would you know the dances if you don't know your language? So that was a big part of the culture that was important to me. And I taught for, I think, 4 years in school district until I got in a bad car accident. And then I was off for about 4 years until some friends decided that I needed to go to work and told me there was a job in North Island College. They said, you should apply for it. So I did. I thought, well, I wasn't looking for one. And they said, did you apply? No, but I applied, and I ended up getting it, and I've been there since. And I bring the culture to North Island College also. with our First Nation students, and I have a culture group every Sunday. I teach culture, the dances, and we're an inclusive group that anyone's welcome, because I always feel people that come from the prairies or interior and move to our island, they don't have the culture. And it doesn't matter whose culture you're learning, as long as you're learning some culture and you're grounded and feeling proud of who you are. So that was really important for me. So we have a lot of children that are in care, and they're in our culture group. So it makes me feel really good, because they're not all from the Campbell River. They're from all over, and they're in foster homes, but their foster parents are really amazing, and they bring them to the practices, and they're very devoted, and the kids are so proud of who they are and where they come from, because they're learning so much. So that was my big reason of bringing the culture back, is all our children need to be proud of who they are in this day and age, because we were always kind of put back, like, no, you need to be colonized and learn from school. And no, I felt it's just something we really needed to do for our own community, for our children to learn and to be proud of who they are. So that's why I put it through the culture stuff and the language, because language and culture go hand in hand. And my thing is, culture is our life. I've always said that culture is our life. Thank you. Gaelic Kilsa. Our children are probably more concerned about the environment than in the past, because you like I go to classes, I talk about our plants, I do traditional plants and medicines. So I've been asked to go to the classrooms in school district, and I also do it in North Island College. And it's trying to be sustainable for generations. So trying to teach people just to take what they need and not over harvest, or we will lose it. And especially now with the pharmaceuticals, knowing that Devil's Club is really good for diabetes, I panicked and think, oh no, they're going to rape and pillage our lands, and we won't have that medicine, which we've been using for quite a few years now for diabetes. And our children are learning in school also, and learning about the plants and our waters and how important our fish is, especially with the farm fish and stuff. Our children are starting to learn what is really important in our communities to do with our plants and our fish, you know, everything that's around us, because we are the keepers of the land. And I keep teaching the children that, you know, it's going to take you to be the one that's going to be teaching the next generation. And that's why I find it's really important for them to learn. Right now, I'm really missing the culture. I have my students that are in my group, they're texting me and saying how much they miss the culture, and I said, yeah, we all are, and hoping that we won't be so long before we get back together. I keep in touch with them, and right now I've been just busy like doing with the culture and the traditional medicines. Even with my foot here, my son, I made him go out to the bush with me, and I said I need to have some of my medicinals, because if I go back to work, I need it for my teaching. So he went out and harvested a bunch for me and filled up my jars and stuff. And I said, I'm trying to keep things that are partly of my culture, to just keep doing some little things. Even if it's a little, it's still important to do. And also been busy sewing blankets for our culture group and for our own treasure box, our Gildas. So with the culture, I've managed to set limits of what I'm going to do while we were off. And also right now we're doing translating books for children in the language. We get, we translate it, and they have it for the kids when they go back to school. Yeah, so we have a whole bunch of children's books about bears, things in the forest. So that's what we're doing. So it isn't like I'm just sitting around. I'm busy with all these different projects right now. And that's the only way it keeps me calm, because I can't handle when I'm sitting still. And with in our village, we were in lockup March 10th, and I started baking for our elders in our community. And I was doing it up till the night before I went in for my surgery, because I felt really bad for our elders that are been locked up since March, and they can't go shopping, they can't go anywhere. So I just started to bake but then it expanded. It really expanded, that I ended up doing for about 200 homes. I also did because I was really proud of the kids for isolation, and they were all self-isolating and staying in their yards and stuff. I said, well, it's only fair that they get a treat. So I think I baked 400 cookies in one day, and put them in bags for the children to thank them for, following the steps and that Henry told us to, and self-isolating. So yeah, so it hasn't been quiet. It's just continuing on with different part of our culture too. It's sad that we have to, when I do go to the store, I wear my mask, my gloves, and to be safe, but yeah. And then our elder worker, when I bake, she comes to pick everything up and brings it to the elders. So yeah, so it hasn't been just quiet. So it's busy, yeah. And that's the only way I can make the days go faster, is like with all the work I have to do with whether sewing blankets and stuff, yeah. And preparing some cedar for the canoe journey once we able to go back again. Yeah. So there's lots of things to do. The teachings that I've always had, my mom used to take me to, they used to have, like they called WA in our village, and they were all the elder women, and they were all like in their probably 80s when I was in my teens. And most of them lived to be about to 90, in their 90s, and still had their mind, and they were still quite spry. But just learning, a lot of it was with the language. It was spoken fluently in our home, but when we started school, most of us were speaking English already. But my sister was one of the first ones that was teaching the kindergarten. They had a private kindergarten where she started teaching the language to the kids. And then when she passed away, she made me before she passed away, she made me promise that I wouldn't give it up, that I would continue. And she always told me, and the elders said, it's up to you now to carry on, because we don't have that many speakers. And I was really thankful with other elder ladies that showed me how to sew blankets and to teach me, especially my mother, who was like a caregiver in our village. And that's how I learned the medicinals, also through her. She took care of sick people. So it was always going with her when she'd make a little casserole or bring medicine or something over to somebody that was ill. So it was a lot of learning from the old ladies in our village, and we called them the Ninoka, the wise ones, yeah. So it was always, I can remember all the ladies. I didn't know their English names. I only knew their First Nation names. I said, like I just found out like 20 years ago, oh, I didn't know that was her name. I only knew her native name because when we visited, the language was just spoken. So I never asked. I just figured this was their name. Yeah. But yeah, they were They were really a really super group of ladies that I learned a lot from, and to teach the kindness, that you help your people. And that was really important, that you took care of everyone. Everybody did, and it was a community thing that happened. So when we had the COVID, that's when I started to bake, and it brought everybody else on board, and everybody else pitched in by bringing seafood, and then our band started buying groceries for everybody. Yeah. So that was kind of a neat thing. And it's still happening, that we're still, you know, cooking for the elders and that. So that's really cool, because a lot of them still are stuck home and won't go anywhere because they're scared, eh? But yeah, so just teaching us to take care of one another is one of the big things, and that I learned from these ladies. My prayer for Mother Earth is that we, as First Nations, should always be the caregivers in our land, to take care of our land, look over it, look over our waters, our air. It's so important that we will lose everything if we don't take care of it. It's just so important that we're losing a lot of things already, and we need to teach our children. We need to teach the younger generation. Now it's up to them to take care of the land, the air, and the water for our people.